Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some more Total War Warhammer 3 news. Of course, the focus still lies on the Ogre Kingdoms that were just recently announced. This time we're going to check out the Ogre Kingdoms campaign mechanics as a blog has just been released and we've been provided early access. There's a lot of stuff to discuss, including a lot of in-game screenshots, but before anything, keep an eye on these two paragraphs that you can see on screen. You will notice that they say that Greasus and Scrag have quite different campaigns, which is obviously great news, as that means that we're going to have reason to play as both. Replayability is very important. It's nice to see that race packs are now getting unique mechanics for each of the individual legendary lords, but let's not waste any more time now and jump right in. Okay, so we're going to start off strong here as the article begins with a rather important screenshot, the Ogre Camps. These will be their settlements, and what we can see here is, well, a lot of different types of buildings. We can see the basic military, advanced military, and so on. Not only that, but it looks like more or less the full Ogre roster. This is obviously by comparing the unit cards to units that we know of from the 8th edition army book, and it looks like more or less the complete roster. We are also aware that there are no bruisers in the roster, but other than that, it's perfectly fine. It looks like it's an almost complete army book. The only thing I'm really curious about is the second defense building. As we can see, one reduces upkeep of the armies in the camp, but the other one we don't know, and we are aware that ogres obviously do not have walls, so I wonder what it's going to do. Though with that being said, we do have a rather lengthy paragraph. Perhaps the most iconic area of ogre society is the camp, a great set of buildings or often assorted piles around a central pot of meat, gristle, beer, and whatever else has been thrown on this occasion. Ogre camps can be set up at any sufficient distance from existing settlements and act as a major settlement for the faction. Any captured or colonized settlements are miners with 4 building slots and max rank 3. Okay, so what I'm getting here is that ogre camps will be buildable settlements. At least that's my interpretation, and that sounds pretty interesting because a few factions could use this. More specifically the Chaos Warriors, but this is very lore friendly with the ogres as they do move their camps around, so this is really good. They can also take the other settlements, but they'll be forced to miner, which I say is perfectly fine as long as you're able to build up a decent amount of defense buildings and keep them safe. But let's carry on. Camps are limited in number by technology, and as you'll see below, unlocking your first camp is the initial tech for the race. New buildings require population surplus to create, similar to a horde, and if the garrison is defeated, the camp is destroyed. Okay, that sounds pretty good and reasonable enough. However, as well as providing access to higher tier units and buildings, there are some massive benefits to camps. They can be deployed in any territory and any distance from your other lands, as long as you get an army there. Assuming it's an enemy territory, the garrison inside will automatically be raiding the province it's in every turn, generating additional income. This garrison can be reinforced by trading units to and from it with an army or recruiting directly into camp. Meaning you can have a properly massive and powerful raiding army that is also well defended with a pseudo-settlement that must be sieged to be destroyed. It can also provide units to passing armies, giving you a refueling and upgrading station for your forces when they don't have time to recruit themselves. This sounds really interesting. Okay, so you build your own settlements, which I think is absolutely awesome. You have to defend it too. It's very similar to that of the older Total Wars, where you can just leave armies in there to defend it. This sounds really curious, and it is incredibly unique in terms of, well, comparing it to any Warhammer 1 or 2 race, so this is awesome. Let's carry on with the last 3 paragraphs. Camps also exert a sphere of influence of decent size on the campaign map, and any armies within that area will receive various bonuses, as well as being able to use local recruitment. Various buildings inside the camp will also have effects within this area of influence, letting it provide additional replenishment, extra meat, see below, or other benefits. Naturally, this makes placement vital to consider. A more defensible location on the edge of your own territory is valuable, but one in the center of enemy provinces is quite a different prospect. The more fighting within range of a camp, the better. This sounds really cool. Of course, we're going to have to see how Creative Assembly actually pull this off, but this does sound very promising. For other factions, camps represent a place to bring ogre talents aboard. Any army that is near an ogre camp and is not at war with the owner can hire ogre bulls as mercenaries. This is really cool. Okay, so the mercenary stuff that we've seen with the whole ogres my lord stuff from Warhammer 2, that was just pretty much showing off how it's going to work. This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. Very smart from Creative Assembly. I don't give them enough praise for the stuff like this. But now finally, the last paragraph of this section. Of note is that the non-recruitment buildings in camps also provide some pretty hefty upgrades. Loot piles provide an obnoxious amount of gold per turn, while there are options for massively reduced upkeep of the units inside. There are also possibilities for huge increases in local recruitment capacity, global effects, and other profitable ventures. Owning regions is valuable, but multiple large camps will render you a force to be reckoned with. Okay, so a very completely different style of play for the ogres, and yeah, this is sounding really promising. I must admit, I wasn't too interested. I was thinking that they were going to be a horde, but this is so drastically different. This sounds really cool. We have another in-game screenshot here, which bears a bit of discussion, known as contracts. So this is a mission system very similar to that of how Clan Eshin has it, and yeah, it's pretty much expected considering that the ogres are considered neutral, one of the very few races in the Warhammer Fantasy world by Warhammer Fantasy's alignment that are completely neutral and will work with pretty much anyone. A small thing to note here is that the Darkland Orcs are a faction, so this goes by some speculation I had in the past that whilst we wait for Chaos Dwarves, we're likely going to be having a lot of greenskins in that area. There's a little bit of text regarding contracts, so let's read that over. There's a reason ogres first entered Total War as mercenaries. It's what they do best. They're the largest, toughest, most violent force they've ever met. Greenskins really have a problem with this. So why not use their natural talents for profit? Hence, contracts. Special missions given to you as an ogre player by the various AI factions around you. Every 10 turns, you'll be presented with 3 potential contracts, each for attacking cities, killing characters, or destroying armies. These will come from factions you are not at war with and will offer money for completion. You'll also get a significant relationship boost with the hiring faction should you complete their contract. This is a good excuse to start a war, usually one which will get you good reputation with somebody else nearby. Of course, money talks much louder than loyalty, and there's nothing stopping you turning on just about everyone once you've taken the gold they're willing to give up without a fight. Well, there kinda is, you know, reliability tanking, unless that's getting fixed up for the ogres specifically. We do know that there's a diplomacy rework on the way, so hey, maybe something's changed. Let's move on to the next screenshot, which is meat. We're going to discuss this in length when we go over the text, but yeah, it's a food mechanic, and if you know anything about the ogres, they were going to have one. It was kind of expected, and it's great to see that it actually came in. Some nice bonuses can be found here with a decent amount of duration. I'm not sure if these are going to be hard-locked as they are, or if they might change as the game gets closer to release. Let's go over the text for meat, as there's some really important stuff here. As your body may run on water and nutrients, and our economy on the blood of the workers, ogre society runs on meat. Eating and fighting are the central tenets of everything they do, and usually the fighting is to get ready for a big batch of eating. And the eating is so that they're well fueled for the fighting. The two are often combined in horrific displays of brutality on the battlefield that will send enemies fleeing. Thus, every ogre army has a separate upkeep as well as in gold of meat. 1 unit, 1 meat consumed. The meat each army has, and if it's increasing or decreasing, is tracked above its banner on the campaign map, in the same spot as any passive effects, and if it's garrisoned or not. This upkeep is waived when within the range of a friendly ogre camp, and as mentioned, there are plenty of camp buildings with interactions surrounding meat. Naturally, enemy armies can also be processed into meat post-battle. Okay, so meat is going to be very important here, and you're going to keep an eye on that. I'm assuming if meat runs low, you'll take attrition damage, which is going to be rather different. It's very different to that of the Skaven food mechanic, so let's keep on going. Far from just a second upkeep bar, meat also has a number of uses. Anytime an ogre army is engaged in battle, it can initiate a pre-battle feast. Up to 5 meat can be used from its stores, with each piece giving a stacking bonus to speed, charge bonus, and unit mass. Bigger, heavier ogres do bigger and more powerful charges. Wow, that sounds pretty interesting. I quite like this. Obviously, early on you're not going to be able to do this often, considering that you might not have a lot of meat, but still, that is quite an interesting mechanic. In addition, all ogre armies can initiate offerings to the Great Maw, giving some of their meat up for bonuses. These are buffs that last for a large number of turns for that army and are Bloody and Raw, extra melee attack for all units, come and get it, additional campaign movement range for the army, fill your bellies, decrease in global recruitment times, and finally, give me gut magic, additional winds of magic power reserves per turn. Only one of these buffs can be active at a time, but they can have permanent uptime, assuming that there is always spare meat lying around when the offering is available. I really like this. You can have a buff permanent at all times on an army, meaning that you can have them a bit more powerful than the others, and it can just work around with what you need at a given time, provided that obviously the cooldown's refreshed. And yeah, that's pretty fun. But let's carry on, as there are more in-game screenshots. The next screenshot is linked to a new mechanic known as big names. Now this is very important to mostly the tabletop fans, as what you might know is that ogres had a mechanic in the tabletop known as big names, which gave different bonuses and so on, and we can see that here. We can see a few different big names with different things, like for example, Unbreakable for Noblars. I'm not too sure who's going to actually want that, or melee attack plus 12 when fighting against Skaven, and some abilities too. This is really interesting. Let's read over the description. Ogres can't read or write and have no interest in the matter. Their campfire stories once the fighting has died down and only the most obese are still eating come from personally told tales, handed from generation to generation or bragged about from the perpetrator. Thus the concept of ogre titles or big names was born. While Cetra may claim the most length, ogres have the largest breadth of names and their possible meanings. Each and every ogre lord has 4 big names he can strive for, each with different unlock conditions. This is as true of our legendary lords Greasus Goldtooth and Scrag the Slaughterer as it is for the tyrants and slaughtermasters that lead your armies. For the legendary, there is a bespoke choice of 4, while the others take a random selection from a wider pool for each lord type. Once a big name is unlocked, it can be equipped as a primary title, giving a specific effect. The system as a whole is similar to the passive traits that lords advertise when they are hired, but customizable depending on your plans and are usually more powerful. Changing primary titles can be done on a short cooldown, so mix and match as much as needed. Here's 4 from a random tyrant, Frog Brotbrain, I just generated. This is of course Ben, the blog writer. Arspelcher, unlocked by It's a Mystery, grants Arspelcher ability a leadership debuff for all enemies nearby. He farts. Oh god. I am not surprised. That's actually kind of funny. Okay, Camp Maker, unlocked by deploying a camp with this character, grants +1 control to a local province. Boom Maker, unlocked by winning a battle with a unit of lead belchers in the army, grants plus 20% missile strength for various range units. I think that's a bit much. I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see, but that does sound a bit strong. And lastly, Kin Eater, unlocked by losing a battle but killing more enemies than your opponent. Oh, that's strange. Grants passive ability Kin Eater, which gives Unbreakable to this lord so long as they have over half HP. It's still a very interesting way to unlock the mechanic though. As you can see, they aren't army defining, but could be used to make a specific lord more his own, as well as giving mini objectives from turn to turn with each of your armies. The legendary lord versions are a step above these in power, supplementing the power of your faction. This sounds really interesting, and very stylized. This fits with the lore incredibly well. I'll be very honest with you, I honestly thought that Creative Assembly were just going to do a whole, just put a skill point and get the name, but this is so much better. Well done. And now we're on the final section, which is for the Ogre tech tree, and before we get into the text we can just check out the screenshot. It looks like it's going to be simple enough, nothing too complicated, just moving from section to section, which in all honesty works out quite well. It doesn't have to be complicated for ogres because, well, it's ogres, they're kind of simple-minded. Something quite interesting here is, well, we can see it here, Ogre Throng, where not only does it increase camp limit and the population surplus needed for it, but also gives all butchers in all armies regeneration, so maybe a bunch of these texts are going to boost up different lord and hero options, which would be kind of cool rather than just all skill points. But let's just check out the last bits of text. As mentioned, the subtleties of language and thus research, knowledge, retention, education, and much else that the rest of the world uses to advance society are mysterious and uninteresting to ogres. Instead, their idea of research is mostly theft, coming up with better ways to eat more and charge higher sums for their services, and consuming the brains of their enemies to discover new possibilities. Their tech tree reflects this by being focused on key points that increase the number of camps that you have access to, as well as the starting population of those camps, letting you set up newer buildings quicker. It is quite a dense tree, echoing its researchers, taking not a lot of time to go from end to end if you simply focus on progressing, but with lots and lots of possibilities to take a tech here and there that significantly buffs a unit or economic element. Several of the camp improving techs also unlock powerful army abilities focused on consuming prisoners in battle for fantastic and terrifying effects. Well, this all does sound pretty cool, honestly. I'm pretty surprised with the Ogre Kingdoms. A lot of the mechanics sound really interesting. Like, they do sound incredibly unique. I hope this means that it's going to keep progressing further and we'll start getting some faction details about Greece specifically, and obviously Scrag and so on. But this sounds really, really impressive. Well done to Creative Assembly. I was really worried about the Ogre Kingdoms, I must admit, but I am incredibly surprised, and this looks like a really fun faction to play. Now, I want to see what Greasus and Scrag have just to decide who I'll play first, but still, this sounds really, really cool, and I'm getting more excited for Warhammer 3 as time progresses. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a discussion, because ogres have been hyped up for a long time now, so I'm assuming that you guys have a lot of thoughts. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.